Good morning, everyone. I'm Judson Onyo, a senior high school teacher at Mankayan National High School. It's an honor to share the gist and highlights of my study entitled Boosting Mental Health of Grade 11 Learners Through Kind Act Comic Strips in Basic Business Mathematics. Interest scheme is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Business education is a program of study that equips the students with the right knowledge and skills needed to be intelligent customers and producers of business products. However, the sudden transition brought by the pandemic without adequate opportunities to design for a new medium becomes a struggle for educators and students. In my class, for instance, comments such as, "I feel like crying sometimes," "I'm stressed and mentally tired," "I feel exhausted finishing all activities that gave me headache," and "it is difficult to understand the lesson when no one is explaining," were communicated by learners in the feedback form, signifying difficulty in learning in the new normal. The mental health of our learners, even before the new normal, is often overlooked. Educators and stakeholders tend to focus and assess the intellectual growth of learners, neglecting the core of being of learners. When they are emotionally and behaviorally disturbed by interior and exterior factors such as living conditions, this could affect their ability to act or respond rationally. Grandwald pointed out that handling long textual instructions is becoming more and more difficult for many young people. One innovative way to address this is the use of comics. Comics, whether they are digital media-based or traditionally printed on paper, generally belong to the media world of the younger generation. Manga series, for instance, is a hit among high school and college students. There are many success stories of using comic strips in enhancing the academic performance of learners, but little is known when comic is aimed at boosting their non-academic performance. In recent years, a surge of experimental work has provided strong evidence that being kind boosts well-being. Likewise, Roland and Curry, on range of kindness activities boost happiness, revealed that being kind to others, being kind to yourself, and actively observing the kindness happening around us can all boost subjective happiness. In the light of these literatures that I have integrated acts of goodness through comic strips in teaching basic business mathematics to address gaps in differentiated instruction, technology access, engagement of learners, and more importantly, to enhance the well-being of learners. Reportedly, comics appeal to a broader audience across all ages and ethnic groups because of its visuals and humor. The name of the innovation or intervention, kind of comic strips, was attributed to the three acts of goodness advocacy of Fu Guangshan Foundation Incorporated, namely, thinking good thoughts, saying good words, and doing good deeds. After all, the foundation provided support for the realization of the learning intervention. Such kind acts are to be strengthened by giving them access to practice tag in their day-to-day school life, practicing the values of mutual respect and the likes. Comic Count covered the topics on basic business mathematics, namely simple and compound interests, simple and general annuities, stocks and bonds, and business and consumer loans. To realize the intervention, I had developed the storyline and conversations of the characters. The first comic strip, featuring Desiree and Charlene at a vaccination site, talked about how simple and compound interest can be associated to the pandemic or the increase in number of microorganisms. Relatives George and Samantha communicated through phone regarding simple and general annuities and how difference in their time zones is related to the difference of the annuities. On the other hand, just after dismissal, Alex and Daniel discussed about the pros and cons of stocks and bonds. Finally, Mark and Lewis embarked on business and consumer loan and how future Mark learned not to ask interest from anyone who needed financial help. Next, I employed manual drawing, pen tool SAI, Adobe Illustrator, and Adobe Photoshop to render the illustration considering the guidelines in the learning resource development. The illustrations and text were put together in Microsoft Publisher. After months of development, reproduction were done by printing the comics on bond papers, making some foldings, and then added to the learning packets given to the learners once every 2 weeks. Grade 11 learners of Mankayan National High School school year 2020-2021 completed KS Mental Health Continuum short form before and after indulging to the intervention. As mentioned, there were 4 series of Kind Act comic strips which the 32 participants were exposed to. After thorough analysis, I had the following results. First, all well-being aspects of the participants before exposure to Kind Act comics are moderately healthy. This means that the learners feel the well-being symptoms most of the times with emotional aspect as most frequently followed by psychological, then social well-being. Since the onset of the pandemic, the world has been locked away inside the 4 walls with most of the population stuck at home. The low frequency in the social well-being symptoms could be credited to the drastic decline of our social interaction that ended up affecting our social abilities. However, just like any other skills, this needs to be practiced. After indulging to Kind Act comics, the mental health category of the participants is generally flourishing. This means that the learners feel the well-being symptoms often or always. Moreover, the statement, "I feel that I belong to a community, social group, and neighborhood" obtained the highest frequency. Further, social well-being became the most frequently experienced symptoms, followed by psychological, then emotional. This could be attributed to the dominant themes of the intervention that is more of socializing, like establishment of friendship and bonding with relatives. This corroborates to recent advances in behavioral sciences regarding frequency of human social and altruistic behavior. People will be happy after helping others. It manages their social problems ranging from social isolation to more serious mental and physical health conditions, especially this time of ever-changing community classifications and social distancing. Thirdly, the mental health scores of grade 11 learners vary before and after indulging to Kind Act comic strips. The movement from moderately healthy to flourishing can be attributed to the indulgence to Kind Act comic strips. This provided avenue for the observation of acts of kindness. Being attuned to the good deeds going around the participants, they tend to manifest the Kind Act symptoms frequently. People who spend more on others are happier. People who volunteer to help others are healthier. A student who performed 5 Kind Acts per week experienced an increased happiness, and volunteers motivated by a desire to help others live longer than non-volunteers. A plethora of studies has established an association between kindness and well-being. Finally, the Kind Act comic strips had a very large effect on the mental health of learners during the duration of the study. As a pedagogical tool, the comics involve the students that personalize their learning. The presentation of authentic and familiar situations believed to have provoked learners to take ownership of their learning and observe kindness around them that boosted their mental health to flourishing state. Together, this suggests that policymakers and practitioners are correct to see kindness interventions as effective ways of improving well-being. In view of the findings, I encourage my fellow educators to modify and devise new learning approach, strategies, and interventions suited in the new or better normal. that would permit practice of skills, especially the social one. Kind Act comic strips are also encouraged to be issued to learners in general mathematics. By the way, the intervention is under quality assurance in the division for possible uploading in the division learning resource portal, Apunan. Comics can also be developed for other lessons in grade level in mathematics or other disciplines. Likewise, exploration of other interventions that would result to a higher effect size should be looked into. Integration of other variables such as motivation and learners' acceptance as well as academic performances are of great interest. For the record, this is my third year of using the comic strips in teaching my learners basic business mathematics, and it had offered them awesome and meaningful diversion from plain solving and conventional teaching. In fact, during the modular learning, one learner said, "This is all I need to answer the what I have learned part." And this had given me bigger picture of the chapter. As part of the dissemination of the study, whenever I serve as a speaker on innovation and research around schools in Benguet, I share them this innovation as well as the findings of the study. Right now, I am truly honored and flattered to have shared my study to a wider platform. Iaman Benguet State University, Higher Education Regional Research Center, and College of Teacher Education, as well as the Schools Division Office of Benguet for the opportunity and the trust. Matago-tago kayo amin. Thank you for your time. Have a safe and prosperous holidays.